Hey everybody, it's Matt again. I get one question more than any other when people are asking me what they can do to improve their sales results. And it's how do you stand out from the crowd? And it's really a great question. And it's one that, there's so many books that are indirectly trying to answer that question. And there's people out there that teach sales that are indirectly trying to answer that question, but they never really do. And really the answers they have aren't very helpful. I mean, they'll tell you you have to know your product better, you have to study your competition better. I mean, all these things that are externalities that have nothing to do with a conversation that I'm going to have with you or you're going to have with your potential customer. But to stand out from the crowd, you really have to step back and ask a simple question. What is the crowd? How does your potential customer see the crowd? And nobody ever asks that question. I never hear it. I mean, they'll talk about, standing out from the crowd, and then they teach everybody to act the exact same way, which seems crazy. Like you're going to go from one crowd to another crowd. But standing out from the crowd is really simple. Once you ask the question of what is the crowd, how is that crowd perceived? And as an insurance salesperson, well, they're seen as, they're a dime a dozen. There's all selling the same product. It doesn't matter who I talk to. I can buy it from the same company, from anybody that I beckon. And I don't even have to buy it from that company. I can probably buy it from another company because what you're buying is so utilitarian, so ubiquitous. That was the word, not utilitarian. So ubiquitous that you can really buy it from any company, any person representing any company in the industry, and it doesn't really matter. Well, they also look at them as boring. And this is a shame because I think it's one of the most interesting products that you can possibly have if you're shaping in the right way. And yet nobody does that. So yet we have all these people that are taught the same way to do the same thing all the time, to overcome objections, to build rapport, to knock on as many doors as possible, to bang as many phone lines as possible, and to work themselves to the bone just to give themselves more opportunities. And yet they're not being strategic on exactly what they're doing when they have an opportunity in front of them. But the answer to how to stand out from the crowd doesn't lie in all of that. If it did, then it'd be really easy for everybody to do it. Or not for everybody to do it, but for anybody to do it. But the problem is, it boils down to one concept. And this is true no matter if it's a sales environment, if it's a dating environment, if it's just a work environment where it's like an intra-company thing, where we have people who are basically working for the same company in different roles. And it's the concept of what I call an alpha and a beta. Now, these are two different personality types, and they're vastly different. They're night and day. One has nothing to do with the other. And yet, there's a very, very thin line between them. Okay, and I'm going to get to that in a little bit. But just understand that the difference between an alpha and a beta has nothing to do with reality. So what is an alpha? And what is a beta? Well, the alpha I'll describe to you, and then I'm going to describe to you the beta. And for me, when I first heard the description of the beta, I got really offended. I mean, not like personally offended, but it really made me mad that I would be, potentially, I look at what I did and I would be lumped into this group, and I didn't like it. You see, an alpha is really simple. They're a leader. They're somebody that stands out from the crowd. They have a definite opinion on something. They're not afraid to share it. It is heartfelt. It is unbendable. And there is virtue behind that opinion. The opinion isn't about a political opinion necessarily. It's not a religious opinion, but it's something where their opinion of the world is stronger than yours. And it goes back to the concept of frames, which we're going to talk about in another lesson. But an alpha sets the tone. They set the tone as far as ethics, work ethic. The fact, alpha won't say this is a better thing to do. They'll say this is the right thing to do. And they're going to be a first mover. They're going to set the culture of a company. They're going to set the culture of a department. And they're going to set the tone of every single conversation that they're a part of. Now, the thing is, when you're talking to an alpha, there's no room for two alphas in a conversation. There's only one alpha and one beta. So you might get two alphas that are talking to each other, but one of them is going to back down. It's very similar to somebody who's betting on a poker game and they keep seeing each other and raising each other, seeing each other and raising each other. And at some point, one party is going to feel more confident about themselves and what they're bringing to that situation than the other person, and the other person ends up folding, and they become the beta. Now, the thing about an alpha is an alpha makes a ton of money. They make a ton of sales. They're top 5 in the company. They're well known. It really doesn't matter what they do. They're going to be successful. When they're talking about the same product you are, people are going to believe them more times than they will you. It's a fact if you're a beta. They're going to set the tone. They're going to be that first mover. And realistically, they're going to set what we call frames. They're going to set the field that the way that everybody perceives the situation they're in. So you might be talking about the same thing as the alpha, but the alpha describes it in a way that is much more compelling that gets buy-in. Now, a beta, on the other hand, is kind of the opposite of an alpha. They don't really stand out. They're afraid to share their opinions. They defer to other people. They're a read and react, but they're not proactive, they're reactive. And so what happens is it leaves a void where immediately when you start to be in a reactive standpoint, it opens up a void in that setting where an alpha basically has an empty chair that is waiting to be sit in. And what happens is your target or your prospective customer is going to immediately take that spot, not because they think they're an alpha, but because you've claimed yourself as a beta. You're looking for approval. You're looking for validation. These are things that are part of a beta. And I'm not saying that you, because I've been there more times than you have, without question in my mind. And when this concept first came to me, I got really upset. I got very upset because I hated the fact that the person who taught me this was describing exactly what I did and how I viewed the world. Well, the good news is this. Again, there's a very thin line between an alpha and a beta. And even more so, it's not substantive at all. There's nothing that an alpha has or a beta has that doesn't allow them to interchange. If you're thinking to yourself, okay, there's definitely a part of my life where I've been the beta, that's great. You know what? Welcome to my world, because I've been there a ton as well. But to be an alpha, it really just requires a decision. Do you believe enough about what you think and the take that you have about the world more than the person in front of you? Let me give an example. We talk about people who sell insurance, and we're selling a product. We're hopefully trying to make somebody's life a little easier. If disaster hits, then they're covered. But realistically, that's not what you're here for. You're not selling insurance. You're doing something bigger. And I'll give you an example. When I first started this program that I developed for myself, and I quickly ended up getting promoted, and I had a team of 15 people that I was teaching just very fundamental things. I mean, nothing even to the level of what we're talking about today that you share on the lessons that you get from me. I mean, we're talking about very foundational things. One of the things I told them, I said, look, you're not selling anything. If you have it in your mind that you're in sales, you need to get that out of your mind, because that's about you. At the time, I was recruiting people for a university. And, these people were adult learners. They hadn't been in school forever. Their confidence was really low. And on top of that, you have like 9 different schools that are calling these people, trying to get them in class. And so, kind of the knee-jerk reaction is, okay, I got to be up there and I got to be the first person to call, and, I got to be really aggressive in getting these people. And this is not the case. I told them, I said, you're not salespeople, you're firefighters. And what I mean by that is there's somebody that's in a burning building. They're in a position in their life they are not happy with. And our job is to get them out. And we have to be personally invested enough that if it means we got to go into that house, climb up the stairs, throw them on our shoulders, and carry them out, we're going to do that. because we're here to change lives. We're here to make their lives better. Because realistically, the person we're talking to is the one that's going to be going to school. But really, the person that we're going to be talking about is their kids. And even beyond that, it's their grandkids. It's about changing their legacy. Why do I say this? Because I believe that education completely changes everything, whether it's formal education or vocational education, financial education. A level of education completely changes everybody's future. And it's something that if they don't understand how important that is, I'm going to absolutely communicate my absolute dedication to this concept and how absolutely important it is and how crucial it is to their individual lives and what they're going through. So we sell insurance, a lot of us. So what does that mean? Well, if you're in Houston, it's 2017, if you're in Houston, it means that you get your house back. Now, not everybody had flood insurance in Houston, so they don't get their house back. Their life could be irreversibly turned upside down, where they'll never get back to where they were before. But the question is, what do you believe in? It's not about insurance. What is the one thing that you believe in that the insurance is the vessel to transform that person's life? Now think about it. Everybody here that's listening to this, everybody that's watching this is going to have a different answer. But what is that one thing? Now, if you don't have an answer to that, that's fine. In fact, that's normal because nobody's ever asked you to come up with that. But if you make the decision that you're not going to have something, then all you're doing is reacting to different people depending on where they're coming from and trying to convince them to buy a product that in their mind, they hope they never even need. They don't even want to use. And you're in a reactive mode and you're going to be a beta. But when you come in and you absolutely transform the conversation and you're going to share them your opinion on what you believe that's different than what other people say, and it's a really compelling way of looking at things, you change in to be the alpha. For me, I work in a sector where we talk about sales training, and there's no shortage of people that are teaching it. But my take is very different, as you all know. I believe that objections are not a natural part of the process. They're absolutely alien and foreign, and they're a sign that something in that process is broken. You can shed objections, you can never face them ever again, but there is a formula to do so. And that's what I believe. I believe salespeople should be treated 100 times better than they currently are. I believe that salespeople should be revered. I think that we offer something that absolutely is designed to transition and to transform people's lives into something better, whether you're selling nutraceuticals, insurance, 2x4s, it just really doesn't matter. But to come in and to be that alpha, you have to be willing to stand up and have a take on something that's unique, and that's personal, and that's deeply held where you're not going to bend on it. And when you do that, you don't have to change anything else. You can be introverted. It doesn't matter. You could be handsome. You could have a physical deformity. It really doesn't matter. You might even be saying, well, Matt, I stutter. That even makes it more powerful because then you're coming in with a greater differentiator and people are automatically programmed to pay attention to you. So when you say what you believe, it's going to stand out more than people who are actually eloquent. So what is it that you believe? What is your take on the world that is unique, that's deeply held, and you're not bending on, but ties in directly with what you do for a living and what you sell? When you figure that out, and when you decide, this is what I'm going to share with people, you've just become an alpha. And now you're going to see everybody start to really look up, take notice, and respond to you. And remember, there's only room for one alpha. So if you're standing up and you make the decision to be that alpha, everybody there is going to be responding to you and really, in a sense, basically taking the situation they're in and molding what they do to where you're coming from and how you're shaping that conversation. And when you do that, your results are going to change forever.